President Biden planning to invoke Cold War powers to boost domestic production of critical minerals for EVs and other types of batteries. Let's bring in our very own Bloomberg's Ed Ludlow. And Ed, I know that we'll get to the Tesla story in a moment, but in the meantime, what do you know about the minerals that are needed for batteries and sort of the crucial minerals that we have here on the domestic front that we can boost capacity of?
Yeah, I mean, the crux of this story is that the US is a net importer of many of the rare earth metals and key metals that go into EV battery production. So according to sources, President Biden, as soon as Thursday, could invoke the 1950 Defense Procurement Act, which would basically give a direct injection of funds, or another way of putting it, give some of the domestic producers and miners of things like lithium and nickel direct access to a pot of money around $750 million, rather than, say, for example, a tax subsidy or a loan, a more passive method. And you see a lot of the domestic lithium players on the move. And you have to remember that the economics of EVs are all tied to the metals, right? Bloomberg New Energy Finance says this will be an $11 billion industry on the mining side globally by 2035, on the refining side, a $44 billion industry. So there's a lot of stake here. And I really see parallels with what the US is trying to do in the semiconductor industry, right? Bring that production capacity onshore, domestic.
Yeah, but there's a big difference here. I mean, we're talking about, some 58 types of minerals and metals on this White House list here, several of which we know are not necessarily environmentally friendly when it comes to extracting them from the ground. So how does the Biden administration square the need for all of this stuff with the idea that, at least based on his own administration's public words, that they want basically a cleaner and greener environment?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Romain. So according to the sources, part of the whole point of using the Defense Procurement Act is to invest in the mining production capacity itself, make it safer, invest in new technology that would allow it to be greener, for want of a better expression. You have to remember the biggest player in all of this right now is Tesla, because it's the biggest volume producer of EVs. And it ties to that other story on the Bloomberg terminal today about Tesla's long-term nickel contract with Vale. But the whole point is that EV makers like Tesla and legacy players, Ford, GM, are desperate to secure this long-term supply. And they've talked about the need for it to be environmental.
And we've interviewed the CEO of MP Materials, and I mean, they sort of tout this idea that they can extract this stuff in a much cleaner and environmentally friendly way. Do we have evidence that that's true?
We don't have evidence that that's true. And you have to, if you look at, I think you just showed that pie chart a minute ago for nickel as an example, if you guys want to bring it up again. Many of the world's biggest producers of the key metals are outside the United States anyway. You look at how the influence that China has, for example, players like Russia, and that's why we see such price fluctuations at the moment with the conflict that's going on in Ukraine. But it's also a technology investment, and this is a lot about what corporate America is talking about and what sources in this Bloomberg story are saying that they want to invest in here in the domestic capacity of the United States.